Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast. I'm Calvin, one of the members of the Win with Dice team, and I'm here with Ramon. Ramon, say hi.
Hey guys.
And we're it's just a chill podcast where we hang out for about an hour and we talk about whatever's on our minds, usually RPG and game stuff, so that's kind of what we center on, so if that's what you're here for, that's probably what you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's kind of our crutch.
It very much is. I don't know, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, to be honest with you.
Oh, busy day?
Yeah, it was a busy day, and then I had to go to Home Depot, and man, going to Home Depot these days are kind of nuts.
Oh, yeah. Going anywhere these days is kind of nuts. I actually, I got a bunch of packages today because all my new computer parts came in, and I took time to just, like, wipe everything off because I'm, like, paranoid about, you know. One of the packages, like the new monitor I got, it came from the States, so like I didn't even want to touch it. I was like, maybe just leave this alone for a few days.
Let me get my rubber gloves.
Basically, yeah. So I wiped everything off, and I took them out of the shipping boxes, and then I wiped off the regular packaging. I try not to touch anything too important, but obviously, like it's computer stuff, so I don't want to get like the disinfectant wipe on it, because I don't know if it's gonna mess it up.
Yeah, you'd rather not have any of that disinfectant or any liquids touching your circuits and stuff like that. I don't know what goes on in a computer. It basically is like how you don't really understand how an engine works. You kind of do, but you don't really know like the fine details of it.
Well, so I feel like now. I've been obsessively watching like tech videos for the past couple of weeks, so now I feel like I'm passably smart at this sort of thing. At least I can put it together. It is I guess since this is a topic now, I think PC building is actually easier than I assumed it was before I went into it.
Oh, okay.
Like I would always hear people say that it's easy, and I would say yeah, probably not as easy as setting up a console, but I mean I'm sure it's easier than people are making it out to be. But now
setting up a console, you just literally plug it in.
Yeah, pretty much. Done. But like there's a lot of that for PC building. Actually, it's a lot of just plugging things in, and if you read the manuals, you know where everything goes.
Oh, okay.
Like if you read the manuals for your motherboard, you'll know where everything from the power supply goes. You know how to put the CPU in, which is pretty simple on its own. Yeah, it's just surprisingly easy. I just gotta like do it now.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, I don't remember. It's been like a while since I've owned like a tower or even like seen a tower in like my house or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I've only like since I've been to university, I've only really had a laptop after that.
Well, I've been wanting to get back into like, I wanted to get into PC gaming, but I wanted to get back into like game programming, as well as maybe doing more intense editing or not having to wait several hours for a simple podcast video to render. So
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's kind of my intention with this thing. I went into excess. I've got like 8 gigs of memory on the GPU, 32 gigs of RAM. I was thinking I should get a faster processor, but I might overclock it. It's a whole thing. I'm a computer guy now.
Oh man, look at you spitting, man.
I don't know. It always bothered me because I took game programming in college, and it kind of bothered me that I wasn't as knowledgeable on the hardware side of things.
Right.
So now that it's easy, I can be.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like before we got the house, I wasn't anything about gardening or landscaping or anything. But now I've learned a lot of stuff, and like I have like all these tools, and you know I feel pretty capable. So I understand. Like,
yeah, it's weird when you like I guess maybe develop things that you're not like you don't know, but then you have some sort of interest in it, and you just sort of like latch onto it and like I guess develop that skill. Like me, I wasn't interested in going outdoors at all until I haven't done like actual like landscaping and stuff, but I did do fajitas with homegrown peppers at one point, and I was like, oh, that's the point of all of this.
So you can have your own food.
I understand it now.
Yeah, no, it's something cool too, because I was looking at my garden and we're growing some peas, and I saw like a little pea pod, and I was like, oh my god.
You did it. It's yours.
Right. So, you know, and it's weird to think about because, you know, like 100 years ago, people, their main source of food was like, their own garden. Well, maybe not 100 years ago, maybe like a little bit more than that, because that's like the 1920s or whatever.
Yeah.
And like cities are a big thing. But before that, it was just like, you had to grow your own food, and people primarily just farmed. And that's what their life was farming.
Yeah, I don't know. My only experience with farming is RuneScape, but I did have a very RuneScape moment. I'll be honest, when I picked those peppers and I chopped them up and then I made a meal with them. I was like, this is exactly how the game works.
Now all you gotta do is grow a cake, Calvin. That's what.
Man, I used to be real good at making cakes in RuneScape. Oh man, but that was a while ago. So yeah, I guess we went on that random tangent as we do, but we did do something else this weekend.
Oh yeah, I got to play with your friends, Tim and Chibi.
Yes.
In your game.
Yeah. So I guess we could talk about that for a bit, and after the game we had started to discuss like world map stuff.
Right.
So I was thinking maybe those couple of things we could talk about, and I'm sure we'll find a way to tangent off of those. Yeah, the game itself, just for our listeners, I'm running a few games now. I want to get our Starfinder game back up. We'll talk about that later, but I'm running a few games. So I'm running one for a couple of new players in Pathfinder 2. And I know we've talked about this in a previous episode. They're just like escorting someone across the land, and stuff happens to them along the way. And they had come across a small village in the middle of a forest that was being besieged by fiendish creatures crawling out of tears in space in the material plane. And they decided to stop and help, and you, for the purposes of this one game, because I might have some other people later, I did want to have a third because I wanted to start beefing up the combat, but just for the purposes of this game, you had played a person from that village, a cleric from that village.
Yeah. It was a cool game. Although, to be honest with you, Kelvin, you're still a little soft on the combat.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I have mentioned I'm trying to be a little tougher on combat lately. I think I did like. Okay, my players probably not listen to this, so just skip ahead a bit. I did realize afterwards that I didn't use like the full abilities of the Grandbankss, but then I put you guys against some imps. At first it was just a couple of wolves that were wandering around. They came across them. It was just supposed to be an easy thing just to warm up and get into it. And once that was going, I threw in another combat later. I had skipped one that I had planned because the whole scene didn't go the way I thought it would, which is probably another topic. And then the final one was against some imps and a large Grandbankss, just bearing down on the players. And like at the time, I was treating the Grandbankss more as just like a big monster thing that was coming at them and slashing them, even though it had its own magical abilities. But when I did realize that more towards the end of the combat, by that point, because I had tried the charm spell from the imps a couple of times, and you guys had done pretty well against that, so I wasn't like too worried about using that one again. I was like, I don't know if that'll work. It had like Dimension Door and Blink, which are teleports, I believe, and at that point it was already in melee combat, so that and Levitate were already out. So yeah, like the only thing it had left was Confusion, and I was thinking like,
oh man, if you had levitated, what would we have done?
I mean, because if I levitated, it wouldn't have been able. Like, it would have had to like levitate away. I don't even know how many actions levitate is. Because in Pathfinder 2, for those who don't know, you get 3 actions, quote unquote, per turn, and things like moving, attacking spells take a certain number of actions. So, like, if levitate was 2 actions, which it probably is at least, I mean, like, I could attack and then float away, but I don't know, like, do I just end the spell and come down, and then, like, for 1 turn I don't get damage, but that's about really it, when I can just use those actions to just be doing more damage.
Yeah, that's true. But so the idea of levitate would be to switch up the tactics, right? So
yeah,
I mean the imps. Well, okay. I shouldn't be like nitpicking because like it was fun and either way. Like I didn't want to bring it up to being like, Calvin, you're the worst DM ever.
Oh no. Well, no. I mean, I know it's like it was still fun. I'm sure there's things that I could always like improve. Like I do want to make things more difficult because I have been finding that no matter what I throw at players, they do eventually find a way to just do like insane amounts of damage, or they find some crazy tactics. Like we did play. Spoiler alert, we did play Mutants and Masterminds over the weekend, and I don't want to go into too many specifics, but like you guys were very successful in that, even though you were facing against like some equally powered people.
Well, I think it's also that the dice kind of skewed in our favor.
Yeah, that did happen a lot in the superheroes game. I feel like it happened occasionally in the other one, but that was definitely the case in the superheroes game. I have the worst luck when I don't want to, and then for something that I would prefer like to fail or whatever, that's when I get the good rolls.
Well, you want to still have fun. That's the thing, right? It's like you want it to be hard enough that you're having fun, and your players are still like I want to have like the dramatic curve where the initial interaction is, oh my god, we're all gonna die, right? This is way too hard. And then as the fight kind of progresses, it's like all of a sudden you guys kind of persevere, and you know, as you start knocking out enemies and you start making your way to the boss, you're like, oh my god, guys, we could do it. Yeah. You hit the climax of the battle, and then the bad guy goes down, and then everyone's like, oh man, that was so sweet, right? Yeah. And you know, so like I don't know where I was going with this, but that's what I like.
Oh, you mentioned the dramatic curve. I think Mutants and Masterminds is really good at that because the way the health system works in that game, it's you're like basically like wailing against something until it falls down, and then you might be using some different tactics to do that, or you might be using some different abilities to try to affect the battlefield. But I like the way the dramatic curve works. The dramatic curve, quote unquote, works in that game because targets do like I don't know, not necessarily act differently, but they are like moving differently or functioning differently as the battle goes on. Like as they're trying to resist damage, they're getting worse at it, which is something I like over the HP system, which
I kind of think of it as
arbitrary.
Yeah, I think of it as I guess I forget what Justice League cartoon this was.
If you say it, I'll know.
I don't even remember. Okay, so there's a part where I think Superman is like punching I forget who he is. It's not Darkseid, it was somebody else that was big and kind of spiky. But either way, him and Superman like trading blows, and like how they're like both basically like super strength, super durable people, and they're just like smashing the crap out of each other. It's
probably Doomsday.
Right? Oh yeah, it could be. Yeah, Doomsday sounds about right.
Now there's two different Superman versus Doomsday animated movies. So when did you see this? Maybe give me the timeline. I don't know which one it is.
Calvin, I don't have that information. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm kind of a pleb when it comes to like anything that isn't like the MCU, because you know I'm that kind of guy.
Well, no, I know the movies you're talking about, but go on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so you know how they're wailing on each other and they're just getting kind of beat up, but it's not like it doesn't feel like you're really doing damage to somebody. It just feels like you're kind of clobbering them, and eventually just like there's like one knockout blow, right? That's like how I tend to imagine how superhero fights are.
Yeah, I like how that's what I like about the system. Like as the fight goes on, the person starts getting weaker and weaker, and it starts getting harder and harder for them to resist the damage, as opposed to HP, which is just like it might as well be like someone just has like a number floating over their head, and when that number is 0, then they're down, but that number is like not even attached to them in any way. Right.
And I'm gonna quote Matt Coverhill, and he mentioned that HP is really nothing more than just like a heroic meter, because your character functions the same way with full HP or 1 HP. It's just really the level of risk that you're in, right? That's really what HP kind of dictates. Like how much are you willing to risk your character going down?
Yeah, I think that would be the kind of thing that you and the players would have to maybe agree on to sort of arbitrate HP as. Like if someone loses HP, it's not so much, oh, they got cut across the chest, but it's they are dangerously close. Like they're slowing down in the fight. They're dangerously close to getting hit to the point where they reach 0 HP or whatever your system is. And at 0 HP is when the killing blow lands or the more dangerous blow lands.
Right. Well, Starfinder has that mechanic where they split your HP between stamina points and health points, right?
Yeah, which is actually pretty much what that is, yeah.
Right, and I like that idea that if you get down to your health points, like actually trying to heal that HP back, that your physical damage back, is a lot harder than getting your stamina back.
Yeah, because like with your stamina, you're like able to fight off blows and stuff even as you're losing it. But then once you're out of stamina, then you start getting hurt. That's pretty,
exactly.
Yeah. That's a good example. I don't know why I didn't think of it.
Yeah, and I think that so, but also like it still allows you to be that hero person. Like let's say you guys are going through an adventure and it's a session and you get really bad, HP goes down, you take some rest, you still have half of your HP. You're basically, every time you take a rest, you're guaranteed like half of your HP back, right? Pretty much. Yeah, I think. Unless I'm forgetting something about
Starfinder. Yeah, no, with Starfinder, you just need like a 10-minute rest and a resolve point. You get your stamina points back, and then
right,
long rest for HP, blah blah blah.
Which is really good design, because I think that, you know, it's less burden on the party to try and keep the health up, because everyone knows that they're just gonna get their HP back, right?
Yeah.
But it also makes taking damage like pretty significant still, unlike some games out there.
Yeah, maybe I should just like steal the stamina point system and slap it onto Pathfinder. Use that as a variant rule.
Oh, I would like to see how the numbers work out on that one.
Probably. Oh, now I'm gonna like be doing this in the middle of the thing. I don't know. Because you get a certain amount of constitution, you get a certain amount of HP per level with your constitution. I'd probably take the constitution bonus and make that the stamina points instead. And the HP you get from your class goes to your hit points, or the other way around.
I would think the other way around would be cool too, because then it's like your inherent stats is you as like a being, and then I think that the HP you get from your class is mostly to your training, right? So the difference between a barbarian, the reason why he's a barbarian is because, you know, they're super tough. And the idea of like just trying to like training to be a barbarian, you have to be like, you know, lifting logs and fighting bears. So that's where your HP comes from. If you're a wizard, like you don't really need to be that physically trained. I mean, there's some swole wizards out there, but
there are. Like, I was just thinking, I related stamina more to constitution. Like, I guess it depends on if you see stamina, quote unquote, as coming from your training or coming from if you're tough because you're a barbarian, or if you're tough because you have high constitution.
Right.
That depends on which way that would split.
Yeah, and you can. So there are rules in the Game Master's Guide for Pathfinder that allow you to. It's like alternate ability score rules.
Yeah.
And I remember them mentioning that Constitution and Strength are pretty much the same thing. So if you just wanted to like get rid of Constitution, then like make Strength like the factor that you tie into your HP, then they're like, go right ahead, right? Like,
yeah, okay, I guess I can see how they would be the same thing in a way.
Yeah, because and I think that characters with a high strength and high constitution, they usually go hand in hand, because you're frontline fighters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you need that high strength to be doing you're the ones in melee combat, so you needs the high strength to do damage. You need the HP to take hits.
Yeah, because you're gonna be up there and getting it.
Yeah,
but that was since we went on that HP tangent. Like when I was doing that final fight with the Barghest, in retrospect I should have had the imps just like coming at you continuously, and then threatened a new Barghest when that one was down. But I kind of liked like it was still tense because of one of the important NPCs getting hurt, and there was tension because there was plenty of damage being dealt by the creature. So at the time I was just kind of like, I'm at where I want to be, so I don't need to like push it in a way.
Right, for sure. And that's the hallmark of a good game master. You just gotta kind of not really, just go all out. You kind of like want to feel at the moment. Because so honestly, during that fight, I remember I went for a flank because I was gambling that maybe we could take that thing down in one round because of the flanking bonus, right? Because we're all souped up from all the buffs and we're getting a lot of attack, and
it's a very
thought
buff
we
party.
could do it. Right, yeah, it's a very buff heavy party, right? It's I call it like the blender because in a campaign years ago, we played one fighter and basically two support characters, like a debuff and a buff character, and we just kind of like funneled everything to the fighter, and the fighter destroyed everything in front of us because he was so powerful, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, back to this case, it was, and then those imps went and attacked that NPC, and I was like, man, hopefully the NPC just kind of makes it, because I'm really the one kind of tying up these imps. And I was just like, oh please, if we could get this down in one round, the fight will be over and we'll be fine. Didn't work out the way I planned, and you definitely took the opportunity to strike at our poor little NPC friend.
Oh man, when that happened, I genuinely, and I've had this happen before in other games, Calvin, felt bad, but DM Calvin knew that's what this creature would do in this moment. The creature would recognize who in the party is staying back, who seems more vulnerable, and obviously it's gonna be the very tiny little, like the one that's just like trying to stay back there, or that's obviously only stepping forward because they're being forced to in this situation. So yeah, it would be like, I'm in melee range with this person, I'm invisible, I got venom in my tail, I'm gonna stab. And
dude, honestly, if I was in the DM seat, I would have just sent the Bargus, like I would have used all my movement to get next to that girl and just like demolish her, because I'm not cool like that at all.
I don't know, I haven't gotten to that point yet, because I had the same thing in another game where there was a creature attacking one of the players, like their companion creature, and like, again, I had to, because like I was doing in that fight, where I had to logic it out and say, okay, this creature sees who's the weakest here, it sees they're in melee range, it knows it's invisible, it's got venom, it's gonna do this. Like, I was saying that more for me than I was for the players. I ended up having to do the same thing, where it's like, okay, it knows it got hurt by this thing, it's in melee range, it's gonna want to attack it, it's tried to attack. The wizard at the time had Sanctuary on, stupid Sanctuary, the one spell that I hate the most from this side of the screen. So it was like, yeah, it's going to attack this thing. That's what it's gonna do, and I don't know. I don't know. I felt bad because I really liked the stupid thing, even though it has a terrible name. This is another tangent, but like in the first game we played, she was playing a druid, and she had a companion that was like a dinosaur, some kind of dinosaur. Right, when we started playing in the first edition of Pathfinder, but it got killed in the last battle. Just some bad luck, basically. Right. But then they found a shocker lizard, and then she just took that on as a pet, and I had to bend some rules for it. But they liked the thing, so I allowed it. But then I don't know if it was out of spite or just because it was a funny name. But she named it Steven, but she spelt it like PSTEE NGE or something like that, like the worst name in the world. And because I'm me, I remembered it and I had it in all my notes and everything, and I don't know, the stupid name just really annoyed me, but I came to like it, and then I had to smash it with some bony swords. I haven't gotten to the place where I can visit doom on the players with no regret.
Oh, well, I mean, hey man, there's always more of us on this side of the screen than it's just you, right? Fair. And if we're having a good campaign, a good session, we have so many more options than we actually think are available to us, right? And kind of putting people in that really tough Kobayashi Maru situation, will really start, will make the game like really fun. in a way that other games you just can't replicate.
Yeah, I gotta start playing up those moments. It's just I need to stop having to convince myself to let the bad guys do what they're gonna do and just let it happen.
Yeah, man. Like, oh man, it's weird because like we both use Bargus as like a kind of adventure like, boss, and the way that I think I deployed, I think what level were we at the end of it? I think we were level 3 or 4, I think. And you guys made it all the way through that goblin fortress or whatever.
Yeah, because we're like 5 or just got to 6 now, so probably.
Yeah, right. That was a while ago. So you guys fire your way all the way through this goblin fortress. You guys make it to like the final room of the dungeon, and what did I do to you? It was like a room that had this fog that barely was just around the walls, so you couldn't actually see the walls, but you saw like the pit to hell in the center.
Yep.
And then there was like a Bargus just waiting there laughing at you guys.
Sure.
And then as soon as you guys went to the room, you guys got attacked. Out of the fog came like ogres and werewolves and like this assassin. And you guys are fighting a Bargus. And you guys are fighting like a witch at the same time.
Oh man, that witch. Oh my gosh. I don't think we've talked about the situation with that. That was like, now that it's been years later, I'll admit that was mostly my fault. Well, no, not my fault. It was Macy's fault, but
it was fine. I don't think that, you know, it would have just been, I think, less satisfying. I was very happy when you know, she kind of tricked Macy and, you know, she was able to get away. Like all these things happen, and I'm very happy for it because I didn't really have to force any of those situations.
No, because it was in character. I should probably explain. The party we were trying to in this our Path of Inneon game, our other home game where we're exploring this like new region. We were trying to rescue some people who had been kidnapped by some goblins. And you know, it was going really easy up until that last fight. So we came in a little hot for that one. But we had rescued some people. We rescued one specific person who was like this woman locked in a cage. And the other party members wanted to like inspect her further. Like they wanted to like poke her with a silver needle or something like that, just to make sure she wasn't like a werewolf or wasn't like hiding something. And Macy, my character, she's the typical heroic type despite being a barbarian. So she wouldn't allow any harm to come to this person who seemed to have been through so much. But as it turned out, that person was a witch, and we just let her lead us into that fight. And that was the fight where Macy came very close to. I don't even remember what her HP situation was at that point. It was probably pretty low.
It wasn't even about the HP.
It was just getting thrown into hell.
Exactly, right? Like I was about to I set up the game where there's basically just like a death zone where like if someone pushed you in, you know, you would be quote unquote dead. Well, like at least out of the game because, you know, you're in hell.
That was
right?
I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but that in those moments, like when it wasn't my turn, I was like, so what's my new character gonna be?
right. And okay, so since it's been so long, I'll take the DM you know, screen back. Like I could have just like thrown, like probably just pushed you in with the actions that I had with the action economy I had. But I thought it was like, okay, so what if I kill Macy at this point? Would they be able to finish the fight? And do I really want to just kill Macy? Right? I actually really like this character, and I feel like we can do a lot more with her. So, you know, I'll give it one more turn. So then I had the werewolf dramatically pick you up, right?
Which was, it was like, terrifying.
Yeah, which was 10 times better than it like biting your head off or like just pushing you into the pit. It was way better. We paused at a dramatic moment, and then it gave Alex's character, Ferox, just like the enough time to think of a way to rescue you. Like he was on the other side of the pit. There was no way for him to like get past like the ogres on each side of the pit, kind of blocking your way, right? And without really, being in too much danger. But then he's like, oh wait, I can just blast you and the werewolf back with like a gust of wind spell, right?
Yep.
That was a perfect idea. Cleared the pit, pushed you guys far enough back. I think at that time you were confused because I used the Bargus confusion on you.
Yeah, that was the situation. She was confused, so couldn't really fight back. And then, yeah, that was really scary.
Hey, but we did it, right? Everyone rallied, and like it was crazy because right after that you rolled your confusion check. You're like, I'm not confused anymore. Then you basically just like killed the werewolf in like one go. And then the Bargus, I think you guys teamed up on it eventually. And like, I know that his character showed up late, so he came in and dealt with some ogres. You killed the Bargus. The Bargus died, fell back into the pit, and I had the witch like resurrect him as like a greater Bargus. And then everybody was like, "Oh my god!" But here's the thing. At that point, that was the climactic. We reached the apex, right? You guys killed all of the supporting characters, right? So all the ogres were dead. The assassin was dead. The witch was still there, but she was outnumbered at that time. Now I can bring in a greater Bargus. Still, it's still like a higher level, and it had all his HP back. But there was like, 4 PCs, and everybody was relatively low health. But still, I didn't have enough actions to do that much, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
It showed up, guys flanked it. You and like I have a barbarian and a fighter flanking this thing. This thing is not gonna last.
Yeah, I mean, like talking about it now, I can say, oh yeah, we would have totally been fine. But at that moment, I was still recovering from like, what's the name of my new character gonna be?
I think everybody was thinking that because it was such a crazy situation that everybody was like, oh my god, how are we ever going to get out of this? But not thinking that like the person raised the greater Bargus so she can just escape, because she knew that this you guys already had it.
Fair enough.
And then I just the Bargus showed up, she poofed herself invisible, and then she just walked out of it because everybody was
wrapped up in what they were doing. Yeah,
exactly. Right? It was probably one of like the crowning achievements of my DMing career. It was pulling off that fight.
I gotta tell you, man, it was very, very dramatic. And again, like you were saying, like that were like I could have just been like shoved into the pit, but there was a significant difference between just like rolling an athletics check for a shove and picking up a character and holding them dramatically over a pit to hell.
Right? And it was crazier too because like Macy as a character was writing a book about werewolves.
Yep. And that was after we had rescued Quinn, who was turned into a werewolf and is also Macy's love interest, who was rebooted into this new game.
Right.
Which I'm still not unconvinced that you didn't do on purpose. Of
course it was on purpose. You totally said that I was playing Macy, and I was like, well, I guess Quinn exists. Like
I didn't, though. That's the thing. Okay, for our listeners, we have mentioned the game that Ramon's running, our home game. It's our more recent home game, but there have been others before. And one where I had made the character of Macy, who I just made based on I wanted a flying mace. So I took the throw everything feat, I took the returning mace, and I stole the character name from a Lego show from another red-haired woman who was wielding a mace, but with a totally different backstory where she was like part giant and came from a criminal family and all that, and blah blah blah. But during that campaign, we were helping out a village, and they had assigned us a guy by the name of Quinn, who was just a guy, really. I don't know if he had anything special for him or if he was just the guy to get us from point A to point B. But he got some, I think it was because he either got some really good hits in or he got no good hits in. And I was doing it ironically, but I just started to really like him. And then, I don't know, it was a whole thing with him and Macy when they were trekking through that dungeon. So like when like ages later, when you were going to reboot the thing and make your own new game, and you were telling us all the setting and stuff, I was trying to think of a character, and at the time, I wasn't gonna do Macy. I had an alchemist in mind,
Oh.
and I was creating a backstory for him and everything. Like I did have a story for this guy, and I ended up using him as an NPC in one of my other games because I had a story for him. I was gonna make an alchemist and everything, but then you said Quinn was gonna be in the game.
Oh.
And then I was like,
all right, I did, because I had Quinn. I swear Quinn was probably one of the first NPCs I created.
yeah, because I know you mentioned that, and I was like, well, you know what I have to do now? I have to. Oh, I just got a ping from my email thing. Well, whatever. I'll leave it in. We're not professionals, but whatever. Anyways, I was like, yeah, you know what I have to do now? I have to remake Macy because I can't just ignore Quinn.
Right. It would be like a travesty, you know. It'd be like, how could you not have Macy and Quinn in the same game?
It has to. It just has to be.
Right.
Like 100%. I was not gonna do Macy again. I was gonna do something different, and then I saw Alchemist was a new thing available in Pathfinder 2. So I was like, okay, what kind of alchemist can I make? What's this person's story? And then you're just like, yeah, Quinn's here. And I was like, well, shove all that aside.
Oh, now I know for the future, if I ever have a game with Quinn, like Macy's coming along. No. Like every like it's like when they reboot the universe, it's like Macy and Quinn will always be in there.
Exactly. This is the new when they reboot a show or something. It's got a new art style but the same characters.
Yeah.
I just had to bring Macy back. I don't even remember how we got on that. Stupid Quinn and his stupid bow and arrow and his being a werewolf.
It was so funny. Quinn was not in the game for like most of the campaign up until now. Like realistically, like the first third of the campaign,
yeah,
he was just by name. Like, oh, Quinn's here.
Yeah, because like now in the game, like everybody, like all the people in the home village, like or the hometown, like they knew Quinn. Quinn was this super impressive guy, and I was like, okay, well I know who this is. So I had Macy play it off. I was like, oh, he can't be that cool. Just so we could have that moment when they met.
Yeah.
That, oh no, he's hot moment.
Yeah, man. No, I really like Macy as a character. She's like honest and easy to
manipulate.
No, not manipulate, but like to build a story around. Like it's with Macy, it's easy. Like I can write probably a whole campaign about Macy being like kind of the center of it, because like it's like the direction your character is going, it's like really obvious.
Yeah.
And it's just easy, right? She's just a easy, fun character to just be like, Macy wants to be a hero, right? That's like her thesis statement. And
pretty
at
much,
any
yes.
moment where I'm able to give Macy the opportunity to be a hero, it's like
she's gonna follow that bait every time.
She's gonna take it, right? Yeah.
Although I have been liking playing her in this new game, because I feel like I get to go, like I've been able to do more in-depth stuff with her character so far, which might have just been from experience, I guess. Like previously.
I think that, like, if I were to, I would want to replay some of my old characters that I played in the past and like kind of resurrect them, because you know. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like doing something like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like when you cross over a character from like another show or something like that. You have all that like the same
episode,
yeah, right. You know, it's just kind of fun.
It really is. Like I don't at all regret bringing back Macy, because I feel like I've gone more in depth with like her and her backstory and her family and everything. So that's pretty nice. But it is still the origin of that was just that one name. If it wasn't for that, you would be dealing with a very different character.
Right.
100%.
If we're talking about cool characters, man, shout out to Tim's character.
Yes.
What's Delorfic.
Delorfic Shatterbraid, yeah.
Dolorfic Shatterbraid, and like I don't know how Tim came up with his backstory based off of that dude's last name, but it was like good, and I was like, that dude is good.
Yeah,
Tim, if you're listening, you should DM, man. You're fucking good. Like, you make a good DM.
Yeah, I've been like really having a lot of fun playing with those two, because I've met them on Twitter. I've been friends with them online for a while, and yeah, like I was just looking for. We've been talking about playing a game for like ages, and we were planning to do stuff in different systems for ages. I think we were going on Mutants and Masterminds, and might have brought a Starfinder at some point to them, and then I just settled on Pathfinder, just because it was very easy to create a character in that system compared to everything else. And yeah, like we've only played a few sessions, but it's been really fun and interesting playing both with them specifically and playing with like new players. And I'm sure I've mentioned some of this before, but it has been really interesting to play with like new players to a system that normally when I play Pathfinder, it's in the home game. I'm playing with people who have been playing Pathfinder, the previous edition, for years. So there's more experience there. But like now that I'm playing with new people, it's just like I like seeing how they react to certain things. Like I had a scene with Chibi's character Solo, who like I briefly mentioned it in the recap, where they had been approached by this mysterious woman who was clearly from one of the hells. And I don't know, I just really liked her reaction to that scene, because I think maybe some of the other players that I've played with before would have been a lot less. Maybe it would have been a bit more hostile towards that woman, or been more ready to attack or ready for a fight. But yeah, like Solo didn't know what was going on. He was sleeping one moment, and the next moment there's this woman with horns and wings standing in the room. So yeah, I don't know. I just I liked how she had her character react to that situation, and I liked Tim's backstory that he just made off the phrase Shatterbraid.
Yeah, man. I was just like, I was actually really impressed. I was like it felt like Tim just saw it and it was like, I know what happened. Like that man can spin yarn. Like, yeah, man. Yeah, I like Jimmy's character too. Jimmy's character was like very much like a fun cheerleader kind of like lighthearted character. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And like it kind of balanced out how kind of gruff and kind of mean Dalfor was.
Yeah,
Dolorfic. I cannot say his name.
It is a very hard name. I still like it though.
And like it's good.
Yeah, it's been really great to play with them. Just every time I play with different groups of people, like it always just re-energizes me. Like every group I go in, there's just something different about it that just I come out of it like, wow, I want to DM more. And then
it's good.
Yeah, like I've been I don't know. I've been thinking about doing more Starfinder stuff again, just for like that specific thing. And also because I've been listening to the Halo soundtrack more lately, which always sets off my Starfinder alarms.
Oh man, Calvin, it's so funny because like I think one of the sessions you played for like Abby and like Rebecca, right?
Yeah.
And I remember us finding like was it like a cube or something?
No, totally different. It's
no, it was
it's not octagon. A cube. It's an octagon. It's not a halo. It's an octo.
It's an octo. And I was like, oh wait a minute, I think I've seen this movie. I feel like something so familiar right now.
Because it is, yeah. Like for our Starfinder game, I started off doing for people who know Starfinder, I started off doing an adapted version of the name escapes me now, but it was one of the earlier Starfinder Society adventures, where you're basically tasked with going and looking for a downed Starfinder ship. But I had changed it because I made the players members of the stewards, just because I wanted to do more of like a Mass Effect / Halo kind of thing. So I needed to put them in positions of like military authority. So I did that, and then I just changed up the name, how the story went and stuff like that, similar to what I would do with like a mystery, where I just like took that one shot and changed it up. And
I'm gonna jump in here because like And the fact that you made us the stewards, which are basically space cops, and like me and my wife were like instantly, all right, we're from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, you really did like watch onto that.
Yeah, she's like, I'm Jake and you're Amy.
Yeah,
Like,
I was definitely like when I realized you were doing that, I definitely leaned into the Holt thing for when you met, who was essentially like the chief, quote unquote.
yeah, yeah, it was so good, man. Because you let me play like like a robot, and
Yeah.
like I think like being a robot, it was like really funny because I would be a stickler for like the rules. Oh no, that was good. That was really fun.
It was. But yeah, like I had them in like discover the ship and stuff, but I also had like I started leading into another adventure that I wanted to do, because I had planned like this whole, you know, when you plan something and then literally change it at the last minute.
Yeah.
So I spent like ages planning this rip off of Halo called Octo, because instead of a ring, it was an octagon.
So good.
Even though logistically it would have to still have like a smooth circular ring inside it, just because of how gravity would work on such a thing. But yeah, like I was just like we've said this multiple times before, but the best ideas come from ripping off good ideas.
Right.
So, yeah, I do want to get into that because I've just been listening to the Halo soundtrack again because there's new Halos coming out, and I'm gonna have a new PC. And Halo, despite being a console game, is always a PC game to me because the first one I played was on PC. So
Okay.
I gotta get the rest of them on PC.
No, I mean, I think Halo 3 just got to PC.
Yeah,
And honestly, man, Halo 3 it's a great game. Oh my gosh, that game is good. I played a crap ton of Halo 3. Like,
I for sure want to play it. I want to play Halo 1 again, but yeah, I want to play all of them. So that is the plan with that. Was there anything else we could talk about with that game, or we could go to talk about? I did want to talk about map stuff.
Oh, well, just wanted to point out in Pathfinder 2, the shield mechanic I think is really good.
Yeah.
Now that I've gotten to use it a little bit more and like kind of remember that it was there, like, man, it was crazy. I didn't take any damage like at all. My shield didn't take any damage at all. Like it was nuts, like how good the shield mechanic is in Pathfinder. And I think it really feels, I had to think about it. I had to think about whether or not I wanted to use like my third action on an attack at -10 or something, or like raising my shield. And then if I wanted to cast a spell, it's like, did I want to attack or did I want to put up my shield? Like it was like always there and always relevant, which was just really good.
I know they've added shields to Starfinder, and I don't know if they act similarly, but I do like how it's a cost-benefit analysis. Like, do you want to try to block the blow with your shield, possibly at the cost of damaging your shield, and eventually, like, because you know that shield's gonna block like 5 damage or whatever or whatever it does, but it's not gonna last forever. And then you gotta wonder, like, if you want to use up your action for that, do you want to use up your shield for that? Those are sort of like the best mechanics to me, like the ones that are like split-second decision making.
Like, and as for I honestly, if we could, if anyone's listening just for Pathfinder stuff, like if you're a fighter or anybody, like just take a shield, because there's gonna be some points where you're gonna be surrounded by stuff, and you just need to have that shield ready, man.
Yeah,
Like,
you'll be surrounded, as you should be.
Yeah, it can eat damage, because like a steel shield would have like 5 hardness, and if you're fighting something that is grouping up on you, they typically only do maybe like, I don't know, 7 to 10 damage at those lower levels, and like the math just works out great for it, man.
Yeah, like that third guest was doing like 2d6 plus 5 or 2d8 plus 5. So yeah, taking 5 off of that, it's like, it doesn't sound a lot right away, but it can make the difference between going down and not going down.
Exactly. It's the difference of literally you having 10 HP or 0 HP. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Worth it.
Yeah, I would think so. I think, yeah, I do like a lot of mechanics in games, and I want to steal all the mechanics I like and put them into another game.
Definitely.
That is the magic of TTRPGs. But yeah, map stuff. So, like, right after the game, I just showed you, like, the world map I made for my campaign setting. And, yeah, I was just saying how, because I'm not good at map making. I didn't even have a scale for my map until very recently, and that was just, like, an accidental thing, pretty much. But, like, I just used, like, a random map generator until it spit out a shape of land masses that I liked. And like I was showing to you, like there was one island like out in the water on its own. And I was like, yeah, that looks like something that a evil wizard would live on. And there was the other island that looked like it was like split off from the mainland. So I was like, yeah, there might be some sort of cataclysmic event happened there that sunk a part of the land. So maybe there's something under there now. And yeah, like I just saw this, I liked it, so I took it, I saved it, I edited the image a bit, put some labels on it, and boom, I had a world map.
Yeah.
And that was just like a very, I don't know, like I don't know if you've done anything like that.
Well, every time I think of, well, one, great on you that you got a map, because like I haven't even gotten that far. Like all this stuff just kind of lives in narrative land.
Yeah.
Where distance and placement shifts around all the time.
Distance, and we can talk about that, but yeah.
Yeah, like I always find myself, every time I try and sit down and like draw a map or even just generate a map, it's just like I don't want to be on the hook or figuring out if that's, figuring out all the places, because I know what I would want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then once all the lines are drawn, it's like, but what if I wanted to add something?
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. And I just don't feel like my, I guess my narrative, like my world, is cemented enough for me to really know where everything should be. Because I have the problem is like when I think of like a place and try and put it somewhere, I start thinking about like, okay, would it really make sense for this place to exist here and function the way it is?
Yeah.
Because like let's say I wanted to. So for instance, Duranus, right? Duranus is my like a medieval human majority kingdom with kings and knights and all those bronies, right? Yeah. Right. So I know that their capital has fallen because there was a rip in the fabric of the realm, and demons came out and destroyed their capital, right? It's like basically got nuked.
Yeah.
And the entire place is like this big demonic, well, I wouldn't say demonic, but like it's just this big infernal demonic bad place that now is leaching out and is now kind of consuming the countryside, right? And that's been like that for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah.
And the rest of like whoever else is in charge is just trying to kind of keep their area safe. Essentially.
Their local like regions or lordships or whatever.
Exactly. I have no clue. I know the names of the places, but if I had to put them on a map, I couldn't tell you where they are, because then it was like, if I put the capital in the center, that means, and then put the duchies kind of like around it, that means that for a duchy in the north, they're essentially cut off from the rest of them. I'm like, do I want that? And then why would they communicate? How would somebody try and travel from one side of this place to the other without getting mauled or destroyed or killed or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's just the one area. Right next to them is like this elven forest where like, well, it's like kind of common knowledge now, since you probably would hear it between one of the other games you're in, Galvin.
Yeah.
But
because I'm in 2 games in your world now.
Which is kind of cool, because then I get to kind of put my plot points all over the place. I don't have to tell you everything in one story. You can see it bits and pieces. But like, the Elven Kingdom, which was at war with Duranus, like they were actually had the same thing happen to them. Like their sanctum or whatever, the Thalon sanctum, there's like in the depths of it, there's like a giant, basically portal to hell, and the elves have literally sealed off like their main capital building structure, like close it off, ward it off, because there's a bunch of demons in it, and that's like the best they can, and they keep trying to send people down there to deal with it, but like they aren't successful. And those are the 2 major powers in the area, so everybody else around is kind of there fending for themselves. Then it's like, well, then why doesn't somebody else just show up and just mess up the place, right? Like if
Some
I was a
outside force,
dude,
yeah.
yeah, right. Why won't they do that? Like I just have so many things, and like, you know, why don't the dwarves are just like, these people are fucking up, let's go take their land? Like why not?
I mean, yeah, but you could do that and make that a plot point in the game itself. Like that's something overarching happening as we're moving through. Like even you were saying like one region might be cut off, but like could you like adapt that into the world building or the story of the area? Like maybe the resources are somewhat sparse between there.
Well, it is, right?
Yeah, like
so
could that
if I read a sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just wondering if that could inform like how they live there, or what kind of accommodations they have there, or what kind of people would live there.
Right, exactly, and that's how it is. But for me to translate that onto a map, I was just like, oh man, I can't do that right now.
Yeah,
like I can't. I would have to figure out like, so if this nation is like landlocked, what are the people on the other side of them doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I decided to have like a whole coastal city, like coastal nation, where it's just like a bunch of coasts and a bunch of islands that they take up most of the side. Yeah. Then I'm like, why don't they just take over the place, right? They're just there.
You know what I'm realizing? I think we came at this from we clearly came at this from different angles. Like you started from like the places first before you made a map, and I made my map before I made places for it.
Maybe that's it, because like, man, like I can't imagine the way my world looks like.
Yeah,
it's just like I can't. And like there's always all these blank spaces that I'm trying to constantly filling in with stuff, right? Because I do the rule of thumb where like it doesn't really need to be fleshed out until you guys are going there.
Yeah, that's what I was relying on. That's why I kind of just like started with like an overhead view. I didn't have specifically named like regions or anything like that. I just kind of like kept going until I found, oh, this map looks good, and I knew the kind of like theme of like the classic RPG kind of theme that I wanted to go for that would give me a good base to expand on. So I was like, this one looks good, I'll just expand on that. But you have all those places, like, this sort of thing exists, and it would exist in this kind of area and have like these people, and they're connected to this region in this way, and so on and so forth. So like you have all the pieces, you just have to fit them together.
Right. But it only ever matters if someone's trying to go from one place to another.
Yeah.
Right. If you're stuck playing a campaign in Duranus, like I only really need to figure out all the places in Duranus, and not even that. I have to like. It's like the idea that like medieval times they had maps, but their maps weren't great.
Yeah.
Like. And the whole thing with Inneon is that nobody actually knew Inneon ever existed until somebody went there, right? It's like the idea that nobody knew North America existed until somebody went there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I like the idea, like the thing everyone says is like no one ever has the complete map of my world. Like it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
because I don't have a complete map of the world, so that's what I do.
Yeah, that's entirely fair. So yeah, actually now I'm wondering, like, do you know about how far everything is from each other, or?
I do.
Like, I'm wondering like how much of the map itself you have in your mind, as it were.
Right. So I do kind of days, like it. Okay. So if it's within Duranus, within like the Duchy of Lahurst, because Lahurst is the capital city. Every duchy has like a city, right? That's like the kind of the rules I do. It's like everything there, it's only maybe 2 days to like the edge of its basic reign, right? So I can put everything wherever I want within like 2 days, 3 days of that place, right? Depending on the terrain.
Okay.
And that's how I do it. And everywhere else, it's gonna take you like days to like a month or whatever, right?
That is probably a really great way to do it, yeah.
Like getting on a ship and sailing to America on like actual ships will take you like a couple months, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the same idea with people trying to get to Inneon, maybe times worse, because you're trying to navigate through a crazy storm maze.
Yes. which I think is really cool. But yeah, because like what ended up happening to me is I had the map and everything, but I didn't have a scale for it. When I started out with my other campaign, it didn't really matter because they were mostly landlocked and they were just going between a couple different places. So I was like, yeah, it's like a day's horse ride away. So that's all I had to do for that. But with this one, because I went ahead and started them off of the mainland, I had to have them sail back to the mainland to continue their quest. Which in retrospect I should have just done something different, but here we are. So I had them sail there, and like the moment I had to figure out how long that journey is gonna take, I was like, oh no, this is every question I've avoided answering all piled on at once. So I think I ended up just giving like an arbitrary number of like it would take 5 days to sail from the this island back to the mainland, and it settled on okay because it gave them time to interact with the crew, and then I had a big giant fish monster show up with a bunch of tentacles and try to take down the ship. Like every time that happens when you're on a ship in a fantasy situation, there's a kraken under there.
Yeah, man, that's great, and I think that it was a good idea for them to sail because like that just changes up so much, gives so much flavor and just so much opportunity, just to kind of break up the okay, you guys walking through the forest.
Yeah, I used because I'm playing a pirate in our other game. I used that same pirate crew to get them to the area they needed to go because it was meant to be a very discreet sailing thing.
Yeah.
So I used that crew, but like what ended up happening is because I did that, I opened or closed that can of worms because then I could look at my map and say it took a ship of decent speed 5 days to go from this point to this point, and then from there I ended up being able to extrapolate like distances and scales and stuff. Like I was looking at like how long does a ship take to travel in Pathfinder or D&D or whatever in one day. And I was looking at ships of like decent speed, and I was like, okay, it'll cover this much ground in one day, which means this point to this point is 5 times that. And then because it was in Roll20, so I attached a grid to it, and then the grid system, it measures like distances and stuff. So I was like, first I set up the grid specifically so that there were like 5 squares in that area, and then I was like, okay, each of these squares is the distance of travel in one day, and now my map has a scale, which is like pretty much how my map has been being built all this time. It's like I have some places that I know that I want, I have some concepts that I know that I like, so I put them in. Like I was thinking I want to have like a very large infinite library. That seems like the kind of thing that would be at a magic school. I have a magic school over here, I'll put it in here. That kind of thing, instead of like I should probably work on more of the geopolitical stuff, but I'm more interested in like the scenery than the politics, if I'm being honest.
Well, that's like I had to think about that too. That one was like politics is I don't know, they're not that important to me, but I needed the place to kind of make sense. So I had to figure out what does it mean to live as an elf in an elf land? You know what I mean? Like what does it mean? And I wanted to give like all of the different, because I basically just said like in this place it's like elves and there's dwarves and there's humans. There's just 3 big kind of in the medieval fantasy space of my world. There's elves, there's dwarves, there's humans mostly. Yeah,
very Tolkien. Everyone does that.
Yeah, exactly, right. And they all live in their own little kingdoms. But I mean, like there's humans and elves and dwarves living everywhere. But who's in charge? It's mostly humans in the here, elves over there. And I have to think about, okay, well, elves tend to be generally in the mythos as being kind of separatist and standoffish, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all the elves live in city-states. Like they're not actually like a confederation. They just kind of like live in each other. Like they have like smaller, more condensed kingdoms. Maybe just one city, maybe just some sparse population. But basically, it's like all the elves live here, and they don't really talk to the other elves over there.
Yeah.
Right. And then at the dwarves are really kind of more community-based, right? And they have these big infrastructures and this big like stuff. And like I was like, okay, the dwarves live in the one giant mountain. It's all full of dwarves.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're the only ones who are ever gonna really take advantage of that. Then I was like, okay, the rest of the lands are to the humans, but they're all like split up they're all under one kingship, right? It's because it's the kingdom, and there's like a whole hierarchy of like, the magistrate, the knights, the duchies, the standing army, like all those stuff exists. So, and then I had to have a reason why they all aren't fighting each other immediately.
See, like I haven't figured that stuff out. Like for me, it's always, I mean, first priority is what's right in front of the players, what needs to be there, and how do I make that make sense. Also, part of it was I was doing a lot of, because before I was more confident, I was doing a lot of just ripping off of other stuff with less changes than I do now. So it was like, okay, well, I took this thing from this book, so that means I have to have this smidge of history in this part of the region. But exactly, like a lot of things that I do, like one particular thing was just like how I was saying before, like I wanted like some sort of underwater region because there was an area of the map that looked like part of it might have come off between that and the mainland. So yeah, now I have that. I had the idea of like,
what was Atlantis?
Basically, I had the idea of like, what if there was some sort of massive tower, and each level, and like you can get through it unless you knew specifically what floor you were going to, but you could see it off in the distance. There was like a needle in the sky, and I had like this like different mythologies for it, right. And I just plopped that in because I had an area where I knew that would fit, and then there were like dwarven areas. Like I didn't figure out their politics, but I was thinking, what if dwarves built their own towers, but they built towers downwards?
Oh yeah, where they just kind of like excavated the ground, and then they kind of built up and down at the same time.
Yeah,
and then you had these like giant spires that can go from like the depths of the, well. Oh my god, yeah, no, that's
I'm sure it's been done, but yeah, I was like, yeah, they live underground, so what if like they built apartment buildings but down?
No, that's actually a term. I forget what it's called. But there's like an idea of like how you would build colonies, like out in outer space. Like what's the point of building on like a low gravity world when you could just into it and just keep going down because the gravity's lighter. Like,
exactly. I don't know. Like, I can't figure out the more logical stuff, and I wish I had your brain for it, quite frankly. But I like the I'm more of a spectacle guy. I think that's why I like superhero stories so much, because I love spectacle. I love seeing things go boom. And I like seeing these grand vistas of magic and mystery. I'm not too worried about like what the lords are doing, even though it is very it is very important. It is a very critical part of world building, figuring out like the people in charge, because they very much shape like what happens in a world system. I just don't have the brain for it, because I'm like, what's this big city gonna look like? I want a big city here. What's it gonna look like?
Yeah, right. And there's like so many flavors of city. It's like, okay, so if you have a big city and you have to think about, okay, why would someone put a city here, right?
Yeah.
It has to be close. Like, so the idea would be for Alinea, where our Helen is, like the pirate campaign, I guess we're running.
Yeah, it is becoming a pirate campaign.
It's an elven port city, so it's like it has all the tropes of being an elf. They're segregated. They're not near any other elf city. They're basically self-sufficient. They're a port city, so they have like this big access to the port. People go there because of you trade and stuff like that. It's a big trade hub.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's how they support themselves, right? And then I was like, okay, now I have to put something immediately to threaten it. So now I was like, okay, there's a demon forest. Like, I was just like, immediately there's a demon forest. And that's where all the adventure is.
We have to like the two of us, you and me, we gotta like make a world setting. We gotta mix that chocolate and that peanut butter somehow.
To the perfect Reese's cup. Yeah, we should. I was thinking maybe we should either just do our own setting together, like a Win with Dice setting. I think let us know in the comments if you want us to make like a Win with Dice setting. Just have like one of these podcasts where we kind of just, or a couple of these where we sit there and we just kind of
like spitball ideas.
Just spitballing ideas, and it'll just be like an open source thing, so anybody can just steal it or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I think it's just kind of cool when, you know, people just come up with random shit.
That is the best part of DMing, is the random stuff that people come up with.
Yeah, for sure.
That does sound fun, though. I think we should genuinely do that. If we figure out like what setting to build it in, probably a fantasy setting, but
I mean, it doesn't matter. But I am going to steal that tower idea that you just said. That definitely exists in my world.
I do have some other notes on it because it is related to this new campaign that I'm running with these new people. It is in that area where they're heading to. So cool. Yeah, I just had some stuff on it. I'll send it to you.
Cool.
But yeah, that's actually really, I don't know, I'm still thinking about how differently we came at world building and the kind of results we ended up with.
I'm like jealous because you have a map.
I'm jealous because you can figure out the more logistical stuff that I can't.
I don't know, man. I'll show you. It's like really easy. Okay, so to be honest with you, I got a lot of this like kind of know-how secondhand from absorbing a lot of like Matt Koval's bullcrap.
Yeah.
Like he's very much like, he has a series about politics, and it like he distills information pretty well, and he actually uploaded like a new video about the politics in Black Panther and how that's like a really good example of showing you where the power comes from in a political situation.
Yeah, I did see that one. I didn't see the other ones.
Well, he has a series of them, and it kind of has the idea of like, that's why everybody is always threatened by something, so they're not fighting each other.
That makes sense. Like with my world, it is recovering from being taken over by a powerful undead lich wizard for several hundred years, to the point where there's like pre and post this time. The year is measured by being post that time. And I know logically I should figure out, well, what kind of world would that end up being? And I have some stuff for it, like in some certain regions, and how the people feel about like undead and stuff like that, like how they feel so strongly about it. But I don't know. I always feel like there's some stuff that I'm missing there.
Oh, is that why you're taking? Oh, that's why she's a cleric of Phrasma.
Yeah.
As girl, yeah, like that makes more sense now. Then that probably is like the most prominent religion, right?
Because it's very significant, depending on what areas you go to. But yeah, it's like it's present in every area.
Yeah, man, that's pretty dope. I'm into that. Cool.
Like there's a whole there was an Inquisitor class in Pathfinder 1, and I was just like thinking there would be a whole bunch of people like that just hunting out the remaining undead, but there's like underground like I don't know. I had a whole thing in my other campaign, and we're running over time a bit. I had a whole thing in my other campaign with regards to like an undead character, but they're an intelligent undead, and the results of what happened to them in a world where even being undead, despite like not out of choice but just being that way, is this horrible thing. And I don't know, I don't want to go too much into it because we're going over time, but I do have like that kind of thing going on, but I just haven't figured out, like, because like part of me is like, well, how does this region interact with like the rest of the planet? Because they were just under the control of this other system for however long. They have their own year system. How does that work with whatever else is out there? And I don't know.
Yeah, man. Sure, I can help you out with that. That sounds fun. Like, that sounds like the thing that I want to do.
Yeah, like I can't figure that out.
Yeah, it's maybe we'll do that for the next session.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I'll just finish building my world.
Like, you give me like a scenario, and I'll walk you through the steps of like my thought process, and that might show some light on like how my world, kind of the gears of it works.
Yeah, you've got a better head for the politics and like history and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I do need your help, or we can make our own thing, whichever one works. But yeah, if you guys want to see us do that, just drop a comment to let us know what you think, or what you think about the show, or any of our other shows that we've got going, that we have on the channel. Follow us on those social medias, Twitter and Facebook at Win with Dice. Check out our website, winwithdice.ca. again, just for Ciadians, which
Ciadia.
from Ciadia, Cianada.
Cianada.
Yeah, is there anything you wanted to say real quick before we head off?
I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Oh yeah,
whenever you're listening to this.
Yeah, I was having a real good day, so hope you guys have a good day. And yeah, I think that's about it. Just follow us on socials, drop a comment, check out our website. That's what you say in an outro. So we'll just sign off and keep on winning with dice, just like we do.
That's good. I like that one.
All right, we'll keep using that one. Okay, folks. Bye.
Bye.